Hey, what's up, you amazing hackers? Hope you're all doing well today. I am joined by the amazing members of Gh0stSec. How are you doing, my friends? So, first of all, I'm gonna introduce you guys to a user. I'm gonna let you introduce yourself. This is the person that usually takes care of a lot of things. Maybe you can explain a little bit about yourself and what you do.
How's it going, users? My name is Userware, as known as the Unknown, because life itself is unknown. I'm a member of Gh0stSec that I've joined a year ago. I joined this group for the first time of my life and I was extremely lucky. I joined for a reason, and that is to make the world a better place. Also, I'm the voice of Gh0stSec in case you didn't know, users.
Wow, and I'm the fucking user who has to Mickey Mouse voice, huh? And I'm the representative of the fucking red bag investor, which makes me a mascot even though I'm a mouse, huh?
So yeah, this is me. I'm the real deal.
It's so great having you here again. Thanks so much for coming on stage and wanting to talk to me again. I really appreciate that.
It's really an honor, user. I really wanted to talk to you, and it's actually my first time in the interview. Besides that, Sebastian was interviewed once, so yeah, I really wanted to talk to you on your platform, user. Truly.
Oh yeah, that's true. That's right. And Sebastian has joined us as well tonight. Hey Sebastian, how are you doing, my friend?
Doing great. How are you and everyone else? Hello?
Doing great as well, thank you. If anybody wants to rewatch that interview, by the way, I'll put an info card up on screen so you can click on it and also in the description below. And we are joined by Chad as well, the amazing Chad, the super sexy love machine. How are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing good. So my name is Chad and I'm the programmer. I have been in many groups before, but Gh0stSec was the best choice I've ever made.
That's great. Can I ask why?
Well, I'm old school and Gh0stSec is the only old school group left, in my opinion.
That's awesome. I agree to a certain degree. Well, to a big extent, actually. It's got a little bit of that camaraderie that you don't see in other groups almost. Not a lot of backstabbing happens. Of course, there has been some history, but I'm not gonna talk about that. We're gonna keep it nice today.
Solo, you gotta introduce yourself.
Awesome. So yeah, thanks a lot.
So honestly, I've worked for a little less than a year now. It's been a really wonderful experience to meet all these great people and to really make a change in what we do.
Awesome. That's like you guys call it no big deal. All of you seem to call it no big deal, but to somebody like me who is an outsider, it almost seems amazing. Like fighting for what you believe in. That's also to a degree what I do is I really fight for what I believe in. And my beliefs are that if I can hack a target, then I can hack one target. But if I can train 100 people, then I can hack 100 targets at once. That's my ideology. Can you guys tell me a little bit about the group's ideology, Gh0stSec?
Group's ideology. Well, first off, I want to say with what you said, it could be seen as an amazing thing to outsiders, and to us it seems so casual. We actually have a saying for that. Like, to others, this may seem like fucking life in prison and a horrible thing. To us, it's like a fucking average Thursday noon with food and beer and shit, you know? So, yeah, and for our ideology now, it's built off the anonymous ideology since way back then, you know, the whole we do not forgive, we do not forget, we expect us, the whole justice stuff. But we also add a little bit of chaos into it and our own touch to everything that we do. We fight for what we believe in and pretty much rights of the people. And we give justice as well. There's a lot more to it, but I've already said it before in the past interview, so I'm going to give the chance to the others to explain what they think the ideology is.
Thank you, appreciate that. Anybody else want to contribute anything else to that?
Well, to contribute to this ideology, to support the voice of the voiceless, to help the innocent, and to help the weak. This is what we stand for, unlike the InfoSec community that they're not willing to step in. But our ways is different, like we step in when we see what's right and wrong. And we don't call ourselves above the law. No, we don't think of that at all. We just have to just to do what's right and wrong and nothing else. And yeah, what Sebastian said, that we do chaos and we have fun, chill, and chat like your everyday average Thursday. Spit out a new topic just for laughs and giggles, like, doing for the lulz.
Wow, which makes things really funny.
Can you tell me a little bit about some previous hacks that you guys have done?
Oh man, we had to add our hacks with memes after propping their anals. We had to fill the defaced websites with Gh0stSec images, and not to worry, we had to blur them out just in case after we posted our last deface, because the users got traumatized last time. I don't recommend clicking on them, but if you want to get traumatized, oh well, your choice. Lastly, we've included an exotic image, and I don't want to say that word, but all I can describe is it's a hot dog that has sperm on it.
Yeah, we started blasting those on a few governmental websites, especially Colombia and Sudan being most notable for us as of recently. So it all started with Operation Colombia, with the injustice and the shit that's going on around there, and the protests happened and all that. We showed our support. We started off with simple defaces. We had a goatee up on there. If you don't know what that is, search up the meaning, not the image. Trust me, I'm helping you out here. And a picture of a hot dog with sperm on it, and it was with a little message as well. We found it hilarious. At the same time, we found that it was a perfect way to give this message that we believed in as well. We did the same thing for Sudan, and after for Operation Colombia, we actually hacked the military, and we came with a 70 GB leak, which was fucking huge, and it had data about pretty much everything there. It was amazing.
That's
It's
awesome.
like downloading the whole country for 70 gigabyte data with simple misconfiguration of the tarball file.
Originally, it was around 800 plus GB, but we started skimming through everything and we shortened it down to 70 GB and published that part only.
Yeah, since most of them has open source frontends like Drupal, we had to remove them because they're really useless since it's public. We just had to extract the sensitive data and be done with it.
And like, I know that most government sites, their security is much weaker than some private companies, but is that also true for the military?
It's due to negligence, really, such as our previous hacks, like finding a misconfigured FTP server with anonymous login for the Sansa hack that contains worth of gigabytes of data. Sansa is a space agency for South Africa, which what it stands for.
That's unbelievable. That, like, it
I
sounds.
know.
I know. It's really unbelievable. But how we started it, it's due to accidents before all these hacktivist stuff, if you know what I'm saying. The curiosity brought us here.
Yeah, and it sounds like, for me at least, all of these things, they come from very incidental screw-ups, but like it always happens that way, and I see it happen with great impact. Even in bug bounties, I was hacking a target and I found a login page, and every time I found login pages, I start directory brute forcing. And I found this search page that was not protected, could search every company document that I wanted, got personal records of 1,500 people. Of course, I reported it. It was my first critical vulnerability, but it's like I didn't have to spend that much time finding it, to be honest, and I could have easily automated that.
Yeah, it's pretty shocking, and it was due to negligence, like I said, with the famous quote from Kevin Mitnick. People are the weakest link to security, not the technology. It's negligence. Human errors. It's everything, really.
Definitely, and like, out of curiosity, do you guys pick like a target and say like we're going after this target? Or do you guys pick like a vulnerability like Log4j and hunt specifically the whole internet for Log4j?
What we did was, for starters, that it always began with reconnaissance, unlike post-guideline rules for bug bounties that you have to do it passively, which is also even possible, even if it's a single target. We relied on the automated scanner for active fingerprinting, not just NMAT but Nuclei, which I'm sure you've covered that video back then. Nuclei is a game changer. We use this tool on in OperaZill to find those vulnerabilities with multiple websites and leave it running on the VPS, because there are so many targets to do it manually. We have to rely on automation for every operations. So yeah, it makes it a lot easier.
It all breaks down into how much we're looking into. So normally we have one large target list, of course, and Userware mentioned the VPS. We leave things running there constantly. And then we also have one main focus, or a few main focus targets, and these become top priority. That's where all our like actual manual and everything else is focused into, all of non-automated things. And we do also do automated things.
The nuclei point is definitely interesting, because especially if you're able to look on the internet for CVEs that don't have a proof of concept, or that have a proof of concept but don't have a nuclei template yet. If you can write your own nuclei templates, it becomes a very, very powerful tool, I've learned as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Great point on that. And when you're automatically scanning, can you give me a little bit of an overview, bird's eye overview of your entire workflow?
Yeah, sure. It starts off with, usual OSINT information gathering, the classic. And I guess it has the same methodology of an actual pen test. Only difference is we skip out the report part, and, we exploit and try to gather the data that we want. All that important other juicy things, right? So yeah, I think the methodology is straightforward. It's like an actual red teaming methodology. We add a little bit more fun into it when we're all together and just doing shit,
Yeah, speaking about methodologies, the difference that Sebastian previously mentioned, that what makes us different from the InfoSec community, that our scope is way broader than those bug bounty programs. Once you're able to achieve a shell by exploiting a vulnerability, that's really it. You have to stop right there and make a report. However, in our case, we don't stop right away. We dump the data and do internal recon to see if we can let remove the network, except if we hit a dead end and we're going to dump the data. Deface the website when we have the chance.
As Userware also mentioned, we have a much larger scope of attack, which is something that many pen tests, bug bounties, and all these things lack. Because when it comes from a perspective of an actual attacker, they're not going to look at this and say, oh, it's out of scope, that's a no-go, we can't do that one, it's out of scope. It doesn't work that way. When an actual attacker sees something and finds a weakness at whatever opening he finds, he will break into it. So this whole scope things really limits a lot of things and makes more opportunities for people like us and other, criminal hackers like ransomware operators and all these.
Yeah, if this is a third-party vendor, and if they say it's out of scope, even do, it's kind of, it made a major impact on their whole infrastructure, then an attacker won't give two shits, just like Sebastian mentioned in the last interview. An attacker won't give two shits, he's gonna take what he needs and get out. So yeah, that's the sad reality about the bug bounties and limited scope.
That makes a lot of sense. So do you guys bother cleaning up after yourselves, like grooming through the logs and making sure they disappear and things like that?
100%. OPSEC always comes first for us, doing an operation and everything. There are times, I know that our public appearance may sometimes seem as joking or a little bit chaotic at times, but we also take our OPSEC very seriously. And I wouldn't be taking this podcast with anyone else if I didn't know you and trust you the way that, So like I say, OPSEC is really fucking major for us. It's our livelihood. It's what keeps us out of jail. It's what makes sure we can continue what we're doing for everyone. And ourselves, of course.
As long as we don't put password 1 to 3 on our computers for the very encryption volume. So yeah, we use this helpful scripts to clear the logs in case of spending time doing manual. Just to save a lot of time to clear the script, clear the logs, and get out of here. Super helpful. You gotta make your own scripting languages, such as cover my ass. It's actually found on GitHub. You can actually look it up. Super helpful in clearing your trace of the logs.
You guys are very good at OPSEC, you have to be, of course. Can I ask, what do most people do wrong when it comes to OPSEC, like in their general everyday lives, that makes them an easy target?
It's always going to be ego for me. Lots of big hackers and even criminals. It's ego and stupidity. Every single time any hacker or a criminal in general gets arrested or caught, it's because they did something stupid or their ego led them to this point where they either think they're too high, they think they're above the law, or whatever their ego is. They start telling people like, yeah, I did this, I'm this, you know. I'm always going to give the same answer to everybody that asks. It's ego and stupidity that leads to OPSEC failure. You have to always be focused when you're doing these things. Like, you don't want to end up locked up. You have to keep doing what
I
you
really
enjoy.
like.
Well, what I was trying to say is, I didn't get caught over there. I just put my neighbor there. Shut up.
Like, yeah, and in the news you hear it all the time of hackers who got caught. We recently heard it about a Belgian hacker in the USA who got caught. Do you guys know of a lot of hackers that don't get caught and that retire?
I have actually heard of a few. I won't be throwing out names or anything.
Of course.
But yes, there's a lot actually that exist, you know, and it's happened to many people. So yeah, I really think it is possible. You know, you're not always going to get caught. You're eventually going to survive through it, I guess. You just have to be really smart about how you play it. And like I said, don't get too much of an ego. An ego, a slight one is fine. Everyone has that. It's human nature. But when you start going overboard, that starts to screw everything
Yeah,
up.
recklessness is really a bad thing to do. You gotta keep recklessness just to protect yourself. You don't want to go to jail. Really, it's not worth it. After all you did, and you just put the theme up top of your head, dude, you got two choices. You either delete your fucking Twitter handle, or you gotta spend time in jail. Just like maybe more than 20 years in prison. Not gonna lie. And if you think I'm joking, look it up.
Yeah, I totally agree. Like, I've heard of it happen as well. And I always say you can definitely be proud, but you have to be humble as well. Of course, all of the things that we achieve, it's like everybody in their lives, when they reach maturity, they start building up to a future, and they start doing that by gathering knowledge, by going to university, for example, but also through other means. And I think it's really cool that you guys do these kinds of things because you stand for something, and you guys are building your legacy in the form of a barrel of knowledge. I'll put it like that. And
I really appreciate that.
I really appreciate you guys as well. Like, I don't think a lot of people would label you as black hat hackers, of course, but I think the black hat and the white hat community should work together more often. I think we have a lot to learn.
Actually,
White hats, black hats, gray hats, these ass hats systems, just these terminologies makes no sense to any of us. Like really, when we look up in the hacker manifesto, the truth explains to itself even to this day. Keep in mind, this dates from year 2002 about the Project Mayhem. Me and Sebastian like this quote a lot. I am not a black hat. The term's insulting. It applies I'm the opposite of you. You think I seek to defeat security? When I seek something greater, I will write exploits, travel through networks, explore where you're afraid to go. I will not put myself in the spotlight and release destructive tools to the public to attract business. I will not feed the fear and hysteria created by the security industry to increase stock prices. I can and will code and hack and find everything I can for the same reasons I did years ago. It's really inspiring.
it speaks the truth speaks himself. And this is like 2002.
I think I already know the answer to this question, but I'm gonna ask it anyway. What's your stance on an ethical hacker going to a company, trying to report a vulnerability, getting no response at all, and then going public about that vulnerability?
I mean, it depends, really. The company gave him no response completely. Maybe they patched it, maybe they didn't. Whatever the reason, if he starts getting a response, it depends on the person as well. So him randomly, publicly releasing the information could be seen as a crime. So for him, out of safety for him, I'd say it's better not to do something like that. It's stupid. Depends. There's a lot of things lots of factors that make the situation different. So I can't really answer this one
I like
properly.
that because I think that the law is kind of has to be pliable to a degree. At some point, you always have to take circumstances into account as well. And we all draw the line to where we want to go. And about as far as we want to go is where we will draw the line. And then the next person might draw theirs much further than ours or much closer. So I think it's good that we can also know that from each other and take that into account a little bit. The more I think we can promote diversity and the more I think we can promote that we all have one, in my opinion, I think we all have one shared consciousness. And I know this might be a little bit strange, but I'm wondering how you guys think about this. In my opinion, I think we all are the same being, just in different bodies, but it's all part like a big fungal network.
It's about intentions, users. Like, what do you design at the approach for the obstacle of choosing what is right or wrong when targeting companies, and especially hospitals, to prevent the tragedies? You start to worry innocent civilian casualties might get impacted on this cyber attack. What will you do, user? Will you intervene to stop these ransomware groups, even those you penetrated without the organization's permission, or will you let it happen that some innocent lives might pass away? In my case, I would rather intervene to spam a lot of message pop-ups to update their systems immediately, or open a video link of the fucking ass song instead of Rick Ashley, just to annoy them further until they got a message. Like those real-life news articles about a baby dying from a ransomware cyber attack. The machines were useless and the ambulance had to change another location, yet it was too late. It's heartbreaking. I would choose to intervene just to save lives.
I can totally agree with that, like, especially
That makes sense, but if you think about it, let's say this person releases this public vulnerability and whatever, right? He publishes it and the hospital doesn't get attention of it fast enough, and a ransomware operators or a group finds this vulnerability, pulls it off and does it. Now, thankfully, there's lots of ransomware groups that have morals that don't go after hospitals, but there's a few that are just greedy fucks and they're just there for the money, they don't care about anything. And when it comes down to those type of people, they don't care if it's a hospital that they're locking. They will do anything to get whatever amount of money that they want. So if he publicly discloses whatever exploit, vulnerability, anything, it can also be harmful. There's, like I said, many factors go into this question that it really depends on the situation that happens. You can't really put one scenario and have an answer for it. It doesn't work.
yeah, it's like that car scenario where the self-driving car, if it has to decide between hitting a grandmother and a baby, it's like that dilemma. There's always
Yeah, exactly. There's always something,
definitely.
Each decision, like Seb said, things black and white. There's always going to be nuances to each different option or situation that happens. That's something that we need to be very careful about, how to determine what to do in each situation.
Definitely agree on that as well. You make a good point, and I think it's important that we are able to work together in groups, but also work separately on our own as well. I think that we should be at least self-sufficient to a degree. Don't know if you guys agree on that, and it's not out of like wanting to do it, but more out of necessity in case you ever come into a situation where you are actually alone.
Yeah, 100%.
Work together and just do the right thing. That's the least we can do. Regardless of where we came from, as long as our intentions to do the right thing, that's fine. Let's do it, and before things are going to happen.
Yeah, but it's like doing the right thing. The right thing is subjective to everybody, like what the right thing is.
Yeah, like our ways of doing the right thing, it's different to one another, and that can be difficult at times. But
yeah, some people may look at what we do and say, some people may look at what we do and say, like, what we're doing is illegal or wrong or whatever other excuse, or not really excuse, but each person have their own beliefs. And some people may look at what we do in, let's say, Operation Child Safety. We hunt down pedos, we do everything we can to get them arrested. We try to help children feel safe in an online environment or even in a physical environment when we get physical pedophiles arrested, right? So people sometimes look at our work, Operation Child Safety, and they see that and they're like, okay, why don't you let the law handle it? And, there's lots of factors. Sometimes the law does handle it, sometimes they don't. There's actually times where they've ignored us and we had to reach out to other things. We found a different way to reach out to them in terms of getting Peters arrested, but we don't need to get into all the heavy details. We'll keep it short. Overall, each person has their own thing, right? So people may look at us and say, okay, they're wrong. What they're doing is illegal. They're criminals. And some people may look at us and say, you guys are heroes. What you're doing is correct. Keep on going, We enjoy and appreciate our supporters a lot. Really, we do. But at the end of the day, when we do this thing that we feel is right, we do it for who we help and for ourselves. We enjoy what we do in a sense of way. We enjoy that we, let's say, we don't give justice necessarily, but we give a sense of hope to the people when they're protesting, when we hack their government's website, put out a message to support them, or leak data or whatever. We give this sense of hope and evidence, or whatever thing that we just give it out, And overall, it just feels like each person has their own thing, and we do this for ourselves, not necessarily for who doesn't believe in us or who does. It's for ourselves and who we're directed it to.
Yeah, that's very important. That if, at a certain moment, you're gonna have that time at night where you're gonna have to shut down the computer and you're gonna have to look yourself in the mirror, in the eyes, and you're gonna have to be content with that person that's looking at you. And that's not an easy thing to do, especially not in this age where we are overloaded with signals saying, hey, I want this bug bounty, and hey, I want this from hacking. And especially now with New Year's, all of the companies are sending out their swag packages, and people who can't get anything, they're getting depressed. I've noticed that, which I think is a terrible shame, to be honest, because there's already enough BS in this world, and for me, everybody should be integer and morally correct. And I know that's not an easy thing to do. I said morally correct intentionally because being morally correct means being honest as well in all situations. And it's not easy to be honest in all situations at all.
Being morally correct is impossible from the way I see it, and no disrespect to your opinion, of
No,
course.
of course.
I'm just saying this, being morally correct, each person has their own morals. Some person may justify murdering, some person may not justify murdering. Every individual has their own morals, and you can't really say everyone can be morally correct. So it's, from the way I see it, it's a good ideology, but instead of saying morally correct, maybe a different term or something would fit this ideology
I agree, and the main point that I was going to get to is that no person can have authority over me because of this. Nobody, no person, and I do respect people, that's a different thing, but they don't get to say what I do. And if I ask them what to do, and if they want to help me with all good intentions, then of course, but let's say, for example, somebody that I respect wanted to make me do grunt work, and a lot of grunt work, and no actual good research or learning things, then I would be quite pissed off and I wouldn't do it.
I 100% agree with you, and it's a fair point.
It's something that I think that integrity is very important to me. Also that loyalty, and I think you guys share that trait as well among each other. I've seen you guys be very loyal to each other.
Yeah,
Can you tell me a little bit?
Dealing with very sensitive things, and it's a family, as we say, and very close. Well, each individual, of course, but whenever we each other, we're always there for one another.
That's awesome. I love that because I worked in the same way. Loyalty is a two-way street for me. If I give you my loyalty, or if I get your loyalty, I will give you my loyalty back. It's simple as that. But I've also noticed that not everybody thinks in that way, and that loyalty for some people is time-bound. It's like, oh, I'm loyal to you 1 week, but after 1 week, it's no longer the case.
Yeah, that's an issue with modern day. You'll find a lot of fake people. It's hard to see real individuals that can offer you respect and loyalty around anymore. It's really filled with fake people in our modern society, unfortunately. I blame, honestly, there's lots of factors that I blame, but we could narrow it down to, let's say, social media. That's a huge factor that plays with the minds of everyone. and I won't get too heavy onto the details, but social media has changed a lot of things in everyone's minds and their perspective of everything. Definitely makes people change, and it's modern day society just cannot hold that same features that they held back then. Loyalty and respect is not guaranteed now anymore. It's very common not to see it happening. It's more common for fake people to exist, and it's really, really unfortunate.
Definitely, totally agree with you on that. I think that, like you said, social media definitely plays a big role into that. But it's also, you really don't have a choice but to almost fake it in social media, unless you don't want to really grow that fast. But if you throw all of your emotions up on social media, for some to a degree, that also will make them unfollow you, because you'll be seen as nagging and whiny and all of that stuff. So I think there's this fine balance between being emotionally stable yet comfortable enough to move out of your comfort zone and go exploring a little bit. Sorry,
100%.
went a little bit philosophical there.
No, you're right there. And, the way I see it is you should just be yourself. Doesn't matter social media or in person or anything. The way you should treat life it's actually really fucking simple and easy if you go into it, right? Life is fucking easy, okay? And just be yourself. There's no shame in that. Don't care what other people think. It's fucking just yourself. Do what you enjoy and don't give a shit. That's the best advice I can give anyone, really.
Totally agree with you on that. And like you say, just don't give it a shit. My mindset is based on the fact that the universe is eventually gonna explode anyway until the atoms get ripped apart. So why would I care what I do? And why would I be so conservative? Because I used to be very introvert up until about 3 years ago. But then I had this realization of I don't have to care about what other people think. And if I think about it logically, what other people think of me is also very temporary, because they will go home, they will turn around, and they will not give me a second thought. That's something that was also very liberating to realize.
Yeah, I agree with that. For sure.
Also, I have something to add to the last question. We're all like a family, and we're loyal to each other. We're like very close as a family. That's all.
I like that very emotion, because in our rat pack, it's also a family. And it may be a very large 50,000 following family, but we have each other back in different ways. Like, for example, there was this one kid who couldn't go to high school because he couldn't get his tuition paid. So we banded together and we coughed up his money for him to go to high school. We are also there for each other, but in a lot of different ways. And of course, you have to be very, very careful not to be taken advantage of. And in your group, you don't have that problem. But if you have a 50,000 people, then some people might be out to get you. That's just something that you have to take into account. And it's also why I've been doing a lot of OPSEC improvements over the last few months. Like, for example, the root password on my lab server was the same as the root MySQL password. And somebody got that file, that config file, through local file inclusion, which was really smart of them. I don't know exactly how they knew what file to look for, but they found it. And they were able to log in as root and kick me out of my own server. And I was like, oh, I have to start doing something about this.
Yeah, blue teaming will always come in handy, and I love that you see your community as a family and what you did for the high school kid. It's really fucking amazing. It's cool to see people like that and a community like that to be around in our modern day time.
Definitely, and that's why I like the Rat Pack so much as well. It's like, not only that, but if you have a question, people will help you as well. That's also something that I appreciate a lot. That you don't have to keep struggling and not getting anywhere, because in my opinion, and I have two things I wanted to touch upon here, in my opinion, it's extremely valuable to get the best information in a short time frame. And for me, that includes creating courses, because I can do, like, I've tried this before. I do live bug bounty sessions. I do live bug bounty lessons. I teach the guys. Of course, it's only 2 or 3 hours, but in the 3 hours, I get nothing done. Like, if I really want to teach people how to hack, I need at least 10, 15, maybe even 20 hours to get them to at least a normalized level. And even then, that's something that isn't a guarantee. Some people will take 40, some people will take 60, and some people will take 100. But I think, like, for us, we have the capability of going onto Google and looking this stuff up ourselves. But for myself, I follow courses as well. Do you guys follow any courses, or do you say it's only what we can find on Google, which we're going to use as material?
Like anything that could benefit us or teach us something new. As you know, hacking is really fucking huge. And even with, let's say, my level of experience or Pat's level of experience and some of the group members' level of experience, there's always something new happening when it comes to hacking or technology as a whole. There's always some new shit happening every single day. So our knowledge, anything we can get our hands on to improve our knowledge and learn something new, that is a huge thing to us, especially.
I mean, yeah, hacking is actually a marathon. Every technology adapts rapidly, like each of our levels in terms of hacking, of what we're good at and what we're not. For example, some of us know about malware development, but it was just trial and error to bypass Windows Defender, and we showed you with a screenshot user of how we were able to evade it. We had to combine our ideas to put creativity into good use without strangling ourselves with Windows Win32 APIs. Jesus Christ. In my case, I don't know much about web app hacking except the basics and doing a little bit of revision. Also, same goes with information gathering, but I got a little rusty. Also, it's unless I practice even more to get good at it. No time, so yeah, practice makes perfect.
Yeah, I agree with what Userware said 100%. It's all about knowledge and then your creativity to input that knowledge into whatever it is that you aspire
Parents
to.
in order to understand that we get knowledge from anywhere, that can be courses, that can just Googling things on YouTube. For me, I've actually done some of your courses as well, and they've been very helpful in that regard as well. So it's all about what we're able to find and how we can use it.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate that. That is really an honor for me. And like, you guys keep up with all of these new technologies as well, these new developments. You guys have probably seen a rise in cloud infrastructure and hybrid infrastructure. Is there like a specific hacking technique that you use for cloud/hybrid?
Yeah, we've definitely been looking into Amazon services and all. I've been researching into it nonstop. Same thing with OVH and all the others. It's insane the amount of effort I put into those. And we've also been looking into databases like Elasticsearch and other similar new coming database servers and everything. So yeah, we try to keep up with new technologies and new normals, or like whatever is normal for governments, corporates, all that. Their norms become our norms as well. We try to see and catch up to all these things.
That's awesome. That's really freaking awesome.
I also have to say that 2 people doing something is always better than one. So, for example, me and Userware developed the malware together, and without each other, we wouldn't have gone that far. That's all I wanted to say.
It was really worth it. The headache, you have no idea. We didn't write this in C# since it can be easily reverse engineered. So we had to rely on C language instead of C++ because it's ugly. We had to stop right there just to understand how the sophisticated machine learning algorithm that Windows Defender that we finally evaded, that we've used that as a reference to learn other programming languages. And what about web app hacking? I just got to continue to CTF to understand more about the basic vulnerabilities of web apps like cross-site scripting, signal injection, etc. I know the basics of what is related to web development like PHP and JavaScript, and it doesn't have to be that complex, just the basics is all you need. Also, if any of you are curious about the best write-ups, pretty sure you know the exploit DB that you used with SearchSploit in the OSCP exams to find that particular vulnerability. Go to that website and find papers that are related to e-zines. E-zines are the best non-simulated cyber attacks, such as Phineas Special write-up for targeting a surveillance company like Hacking Team, of the Italian surveillance company, and a non-sec e-design write-up for hacking NASA. These are real-life cyber attacks that will make you to be convinced how easy it is to own an organization. Trust me, you won't regret this. It's about education.
Yeah, and that's what I try to emulate with my labs as well. Like, I have what I call bare bone naked labs, which are just one vulnerability, very easy to spot. But I also have some real pen testing like assignments, which contain some functionality, 7, 8, 9 bugs in it. And I expect people to find that, report that, and do it the proper way. At least that's for my courses. And you said about the e-zines as well. I totally agree. I have some for sale as well, which are on my website, and they are made by this kid called Rohit. This really freaking amazing drawer, and he also has a lot of technical know-how. So what we've talked to each other about is that I would cover the video part of it and he would cover the zine part of it. So if anybody's interested in that, I'll throw up in the link in the description as well. You can get them for free now for a limited time, so head over there. But the e-zines, I just love them as well. I know it's not good for the environment, but F it, I print them out and I read them when I'm on the toilet. Because for me, repetition is key. Repeating. Before our conversation, I was working on a repetition test, just a test that people can take, but it would not unlock for 15 days. I do that because I don't want them to do that immediately. I want them to have to go back to the material. I think repetition is extremely important, and I think you guys will agree with me on that, right?
It's a cool thing you have set up there where every 15 days you can repeat an old thing you did or learned. It's a really awesome concept.
Definitely.
Yeah, those concepts.
It helps a lot, even if they are bare bones. It doesn't matter. These are real-life web applications that can be exploited. For the demonstration, though, instead of showing us with an alert pop-up message for the cross-site scripting vulnerability, no. You have to grab those cookie sessions. I've seen articles for doing web app hacking. I have this trouble every time, really, of being convinced of why I should learn web app hacking until I read these articles. And I was like, all right, I'm convinced. What about this cross-site scripting then? Give me a real-life example of how can I take advantage of this. I read an article blog post that is related to MageCard, I think. Yeah, pretty sure that's the one I'm talking about. The whole summary is about how hackers were able to take advantage of the outdated software with cross-site scripting to steal credit card information from customers without even knowing they got hijacked.
Yeah, that was a huge thing. I remember with the Mage card or something like that, right? That was a fucking huge vulnerability for credit card skimming as a whole, and it did heavily rely on cross-site scripting. Yeah, it's fucking insane.
Reminds me of this family.
Insane. That's really insane for.
But I think that was
some people would be like, oh, it is actually. Well, it's a real life example. Yeah.
Reminds me
also,
of like.
one thing I don't like about the CTFs is those caches, like the user.txt and user.txt. I don't want to see those, to be honest. Like, they're not helping me a lot. Like, you as an attacker, you get in the system, you get what you need. Like,
Privilege escalation, lateral movement, getting another access. No, that doesn't make any sense.
you got to take the next step, like, as a real life, as an actual attacker.
Yeah, CTFs don't present this form of realism where you actually have to find said flag as the valuable data. So CTFs don't provide this sense or value of actual realism and actual experience gives, be it blue teaming, red teaming. It actually gets really different from CTFs and the way that, well, being trained to do it. And I'm not saying CTFs are bad or anything. They're great practice. They're good resources to learn with. Try Hack Me, Hack the Box, all, great fucking websites. I'm just saying it gets really different once you actually put your knowledge to experience and actually try to do shit outside of these practice labs,
I think CTFs are best for understanding how services work, rather than nothing is going to be that ideal. There's not going to be that complete set of vulnerabilities for a target. But learning about what each service does and how to work with each one, that I feel like is where CTFs are very beneficial.
Yeah, and even just the antivirus protection, I can imagine that gets in the way in real life, like firewalls, all of that stuff.
It's very like it's going to have a wild, or not that I've seen so far at least. When you're doing SQLi, but in the wild, you're going to see that a lot, especially on higher websites. Yeah, like
Yeah, like in real life, it's actually different based on experience. These are actual basic vulnerabilities out of the wild that can be easily exploited by doing it manually. And it's really time consuming, which is why we use automation scanners like Nuclear and Nmap just to find these vulnerabilities like anonymous logins for file upload vulnerability or SQL injection. So yeah, me and Saul talked about this. These were about to teach the beginners in a step-by-step approach just to understand the fundamentals, and that's what's great about TryHackMe. However, when targeting and exploiting these boxes, I don't want to see these hashes. They are useless and have no value when it comes to data exfiltration phase. When I successfully compromise the database server with least privileges, I just have to at least dump the data first before I move on to the next step. This should give the companies more of a wake-up call to take it seriously. I mean, seriously, these hatches has no value.
Yeah, I agree, and like you say, it's very time consuming. Totally agree with you on that. But it's also, to a degree, I think, sort of they're trained to look for a vulnerability which they know is there, which is something like in a real target, you'd never know if there's going to be a vulnerability or not. And to a certain degree, after a while, you'll be able to predict it a little bit, but that's only a little bit. And does that insecurity ever get to you guys? Like,
It's like what we do with the spearfishing campaign, but I've never done it once. But do I have any securities? No, I just have to look at others' mistakes to make sure not to repeat them. I watched a Hack 5 show that was hosted by Movix and a few others with the topic related the 3 or 4 piece of post-exploitation. When their first pentest related to social engineering, or not the first time, except to some people, if it's their first time to perform social engineering, they get nervous for the first time when sending this malicious document. They start to worry like, why this user isn't opening my document? I'm starting to getting a little bit worried. Bro, have you checked the timeline of the victim you're targeting? And have you taken accountability that he might have gone to the toilet to take a piss? Like, come on, they got breaks.
yeah, sometimes it's like a little baby.
Jokes aside.
When an attacker gets a reverse shell connection, he's not going to get admin privileges right away. He takes his time while his process is concealed. Look for anything that is valuable, but when it's locked, he will attempt to get admin privileges and dump the credentials with Mimikatz, which is what Sebastian said in the previous interview, that just to maintain access. We don't need admin to get access. Any of the user accounts, at least one of them, just to let him in, if one of the employees or the companies were going to take account of. Like straight away, finding a vulnerability once you get a shell? No, that's not true. It takes a bit of time when it's only needed to move laterally. You get in and get out.
That's what a real life attack looks like. Like getting it out of just it's not realistic. As long as we have new capabilities to figure out what their strategy is to get in and focus on data administration, yeah, something's trouble, that's stutter, just like I'm doing right now. But hey, unlike the movies from hacker movies, this is reality. We stutter a lot, we mess up. And sometimes we get on a call for every Thursday just to have fun and chaos.
The movie Hackers 1995 starring Angelina Jolie, that is the most acceptable, greatest movie to exist. I will vouch for it for the rest of my life. You see Hackers, that's exactly what realism hacking looks like. We're all weird-ass fucking characters. We type random shit on the screen and it blasts everywhere. It's the most realistic approach, Hackers 1995. It's a great movie. I recommend it. You guys should all watch it.
Definitely.
Sorry to offend anyone. I never watched it once. Sorry, Sebastian, I offended you.
I'm sure there's a lot of people like modernly haven't seen it. It's actually I was being sarcastic. It's such a bad movie that it's good. Okay, that's the level that I try to aim for. It's actually it's a weird representation of hackers, that fucking movie, man. It's nice. It has its comedic, goofy little fucking value, but it's way off from realism. Its characters are really poorly done. I mean, the main character, Dade, and Angelina Jolie had a decent role there and all. It's a bad movie to the point where it's good,
And how about, like, for example, Mr. Robot? Is that realistic?
Mr. Robot has a sense of realism, and I like that about that show. See, when we compare most modern, or most hacker movies since way back then, like the 1995 film and TV shows that do hacking and all, it's very different, and it shows, flashing shit on your screen, things blowing up, weird-ass characters with, like, long hair, beard, sometimes fat, sometimes muscular, whatever, it shows these either really stereotypical things, but they try to be different and still end up showing shit blowing up on your screen and numbers everywhere and really flashy GUI everywhere, It's... What I liked about Mr. Robot is, I'm not going to say it's 100% realistic and all, but it does have this sense of realism, and it does have this realistic touch, Brute forcing a password does not take 2 seconds, and you will not always get it right, like in the show. But
Yep.
brute forcing does exist, and he does it in a similar way that others do.
Definitely. I recognized some of the tools as well that they used, which is really awesome. And for me, also the substance abuse, that's also a big thing in some of the communities that I know. Is it substance abuse in
Yeah,
your
it is.
communities as well? Is it like, as of course not in Gh0stSec, I mean, but I mean...
In Gh0stSec, I prefer if others don't abuse heavy substances. I don't promote any heavy drugs or anything. I accept low-scale things like marijuana and whatever. But when it starts to go to heavier things like morphine, as Elliot does in the show Mr. Robot, that's where I start to draw the line for heavy abuse for drugs. And I see people with it as this heavy abuse for drugs, alcohol, whatever. I start to see them as mentally unstable, right? They can be mentally perfect, but once they start taking these, I start to see them as they're in a different mindset, even if they're more honest or whatever bullshit. To me, I don't like to interact with these people much. Sure, I can be friendly to them, I can show them respect. When it comes down to it, I cannot vouch that they will stay loyal, they will stay in this mindset. Their mindset is always changing because of what they're taking. So when it comes to these stuff, in any community, especially outside Gh0stSec, I've been in a few communities, few chat rooms here and there, forums, everywhere. I noticed that there are people that actually do have heavy usage on heavy drugs, or they're heavily addicted to alcohol and things, and it really changes that person's mindset a lot, or the way that they do things,
Yep.
It just doesn't end up becoming the same person, and it ruins a person overall. It's something I will never recommend to anyone. Taking low-scale things like marijuana and whatever, it's fine, but once you start getting into cocaine, heroin, meth, morphine, all that, LSD, that's where I start to draw the line. I'm like, hey, you're not in the right mind. I'm sorry, we can't have this. It doesn't work.
Yeah, and even like, of course, like I can't condone anything because of the YouTube's thing, but like even just hallucinogenics, I would be like, okay, it's hallucinogenics. It's not like cocaine or heroin or any of that stuff. But it's like, I've noticed that as well, that there's a lot of mental stress as well, which is what leads to that substance abuse, of course. And
I can see that being a thing. In terms of mental stress, yeah. That's why I say most of the times I see these people as mentally ill, as either the reason they're taking it to make them feel better or to run away from the fact that they're not doing okay. Some people take it for enjoyment, whatever, and even then I still consider all of them, like I said, mentally ill.
are you under a lot of stress?
Personally, for me, after fucking years doing this, I could say maybe the only thing I suffer from would be paranoia, a shit ton, even in person and all. Maybe that would be my only weakness, is that sometimes I'm too paranoid. But it comes with its pros and cons. I'm more aware of situations and my surroundings, but that also makes me really terrified, or not really terrified, but I am more scared that things may happen, or I'm just very aware of things happening around me to the point where I'm not always there. That'd be the only negative effect I've experienced through my years of doing what I
It's
do.
good as well.
Even this can be very stressful at times, like Seb said, for the most part, since it's very secure, there's not a whole lot to be stressed about. But sometimes things can get a little heavy, and it's very important to be in a sound mind when they do, if they do.
I always promote for us to make sure that we're in the right mindset. I offer everything I can to make sure everyone's feeling okay, and anytime people need breaks, anything, I always make sure that it's alright, not to stress on anyone too much or anything. After all, like Chad and Solo said before, we're all like a fucking family. So I do my best to make sure all of us are at doing great mentally and in our health and everything. It's really important because we can't do what we do if we're not doing
That's
okay.
really good.
Yeah, it's not like this Mr. Robot at all. This is, we all really care about each other.
That really goes back to the family part. I really like that. Do you guys ever, or I don't know if you live close enough together, but do you ever hack together in the same room?
We do everything remotely.
Yeah, for opposite reasons, we cannot answer any.
Sorry. Sorry, didn't.
Not just
Let's just say to the users who are watching this, our answer is gonna be, we're not gonna confirm nor deny. Everything is remotely. That's all you need to know.
we hack machines remotely.
It's like, for me, I used to go to a hacker space near me, but they stopped a few years ago. And I was just tinkering on things like Raspberry Pis and all of that stuff, which is where I kind of picked up the love for this field totally, because I'm a QA engineer, but I'm not that technical. I'm more of a functional kind of guy where I will screw you over by your own business logic. And I don't know, does a person like me have a spot in a team like yours? Not that I want to join, of course, and not that I don't want to join either, but it's just like, I'm curious, like, I'm more of a functional type of hacker, like IDORs, broken access control, business logic. Do hackers like that have a place in teams like yours?
Definitely, we make a use of everything. Every factor in, at least, I cannot speak for other groups or other communities, but for us, I try to make use of every factor that gets involved. We all make up each other as a whole. Some may be better at information gathering, some may be better at exploit development, some are good at exploiting malware development, everything. So each of us have our own expertise field. We're all good at many things, but each person, has their own thing that they're experts at. And when it comes down to that, our expertise complete one another in a way, and it's what makes our group, really out there and strive for the best.
We accept our strengths and weaknesses, and the weaknesses we cover to each other with our strengths and combine all together to accomplish the great impossible. How was that?
I like that. And also the fact that you strive for perfection. It's like you can never reach perfection, we all know that, but the fact that you just strive for it alone is something that's very important to me. Because I think that we are doomed or blessed, the way you look at it is your thing, but to learn forever, I think. Eternal learning is something that we're gonna have to get used to. And I wouldn't have it any other way either, by the way. I wouldn't want it any other way, but still, it took some getting used to from my side. I used to be somebody who would sit at the couch all day, play video games to a degree, and do nothing, No, I'm not that kind of guy anymore. I do nothing but work.
I want to say something.
Of course.
And that is AIDS together strong.
Sorry? Can you repeat that, please?
Like you said before about the weaknesses we cover each other, it's the same term as apes together strong.
That's also like, yeah, I totally agree with that point, because it's not only do you fill in each other's strengths, but you also fill in each other's weaknesses, which is two separate things, basically. Like, everybody has their
But
base.
that quote is actually inspired from the Planet of the Apes. That's what Gh0stSec said. Really.
Yeah.
Together strong.
No, I get it. I'm sorry. I watched that movie a while ago. My memory isn't great. That's one of the reasons why I could never join you guys, by the way. My memory is terrible. My OPSEC would be horrible. But yeah.
I'd add actually about positive continuously learning. Sometimes I myself even get overwhelmed with how much I don't know, because knowledge is always evolving. There's always going to be new things that are released. But if I get the mindset of constantly learning and knowing that life is just an everlasting learning process, then I feel more comfortable. Every documentation about things, and I become more confident as a result of that.
Definitely. Thanks for it. I totally agree with you. Maybe just one last question before I have to go. Do you guys do what you're doing?
I really enjoy what I do, and yeah, we do benefit a lot of people, and it does have its perks that it helps change the world. I know that's a stretch when I say we can change the world, but I enjoy what I do at the same time with the benefits that it comes with. It's enjoyable. That's what I can say. When we do the shit that we do, or break into, let's say, fucking Operation Columbia, when we put the images on the website, I don't want to re-explain what images they were, but when we put the images on the website, I felt, well, I'm sure I can speak for everyone, but it's the sense of like, it was hilarious, it was funny, At the same time, it was a sense of like, we outsmarted them. We are on top of them in a way, and we're helping the others as well. So we do enjoy what we do. It gives a nice little rush. We help people, and it's fucking hilarious.
I totally agree. I totally agree. Thanks a lot, everybody, for your input today and for being so open about answering.
I'd like to add something.
Oh yeah, thanks.
It's true.
It's true. We had fun to the very end, helping people as much as we can to help the victims, the helpless, the voice of the voices. And yeah, we did have fun. Honestly, I'm really honored to join with Sebastian. And I'm really glad that I've joined this group since that PETA video to call those non-profit animal organization of my Joker voice impression. I'm really glad I was able to meet all the members of Gh0stSec, and they're all really family to me. We're all equals to one another. And that's all I got to say.
To be honest, joining this group actually was a real life changer. There's so much I've been able to accomplish and learn as a result of the other members who have been there for a long time, for sure.
Awesome, thanks a lot. I sort of suspected that because I think if you wouldn't enjoy yourself that you would have been kind of mad, but thanks a lot everybody for your time. I so appreciate it from the bottom of my heart.
As well.
We've been going for about an hour and 10 minutes and it feels like nothing is past when it comes to time. So I'm thinking, and so we've been talking about this, making this into a weekly podcast or a monthly podcast or bi-monthly. We'll see how often it can occur. But I'm just glad that I met you guys and just happy that you guys are so open to answer my questions.
We are really glad to meet the most respected hackers who are open-minded like you and Hackers Void to welcome us that only cares about intentions, really. It's all about what's right or wrong and nothing else that matters to us. And we are very grateful for that.
Thank you.
Let's hope next time we'll do this again and have some fun.
Definitely.
You can answer questions, chat. Yeah, it's real fun.
Yeah.
Am I right, users?
Write down in the comments down below.
Awesome. I'm curious to see what questions they come up with. Wait. We had one question coming in from a user because I posted on Twitter that I was going to interview you. I had one.
Yeah, we gotta answer this question.
So, one question came from Alper Kaya, and they said, if you had no experience and no money, what would you do? How would you start your journey?
No experience, no money. I mean, do I have my gear, my tech and all that? Or is it just no money, no nothing? I just like fucking newborn?
I say no money, nothing. No gear, no...
Okay, but do I have...
Yeah, you have your knowledge.
Okay, so I have my knowledge. I could, I guess, start shooting for an intern job or something till I can afford my gear, right? I start off small. With the knowledge that I have, I get experience and I get money. And with the gear that I have, while I'm still at my job, I can also do part-time bug bounties. And I'm talking from a legal perspective because I'm pretty sure this guy's asking for a legal perspective. So I'd go with bug bounties on the side while I'm also doing my job, or any part-time freelancing thing I could do. So I go from there and try to get further. I guess that would be the start. And from there, I'd start to figure out things.
Yeah, definitely. So it's like you start at an internship and then you start working your way up until you're at a level that's acceptable for you. Yeah. Like I heard this quote a while ago that said like you have to invest a little bit until you level up enough to unlock the resources that are required to get to the next level. And I totally agree with that.
Yeah, 100%.
Like a lot of people are, for example, they're texting me saying, oh, I can't hack because I'm on a phone. And I'm like, yeah, but you have a phone.
You can manage, everyone can manage. You just gotta, just do shit,
Yeah,
get started.
exactly. And just learn how to do it and circumvent it anyway. So,
Always one step at a time. No rush. Take your time. And that's our goal.
exactly. And in 365 days, you'll see that you've gone much further than you would have gone if you would have rushed it.
If you wanted to know exactly how I've started before and after I joined Gh0stSec, I joined Gh0stSec without skills, trust me. I've evolved after I joined because, as a matter of fact, I've watched a lot of InfoSec videos before I joined Gh0stSec, like when I was a teenager back then. And I've learned a lot thanks to that. But that's way back before I was even born. That time, there wasn't much resources related to hacking. You either have to become a genius or with a partner to accomplish something. But nowadays, that isn't the case anymore. You can Google things up of the answers you want all along. So don't just stand there and do nothing. Do something.
Yeah, and you have hackspert.com as well, which is my lab's website, just saying.
In general, even besides hacking, researching is fucking amazing. We have been given the gift of the internet. Some people may use it wrong, some people may use it properly. It's a gift the way I see it, and it's not hard to search what you want up and just you can get whatever knowledge that you aspire to learn off the internet, even illegal things.
Yeah, and if you want like one of my
Like,
courses,
listen, illegal or illegal doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter as long as you don't harm the innocent. It's just knowledge that you wanted to learn something out of curiosity. You're doing this to improve the computer security or protect the society, making malware, ransomware, exploit development, web app development, making CTFs. It doesn't matter. You're only learning out of curiosity, so don't let it stop you, user.
exactly. And I think it also sort of answers the second question that was there, like how was your life as a hacktivist started?
So when I was young, my father was sent to prison and he was innocent, so I wanted revenge and it took off from there, I guess.
That's like really freaking awesome. It's like like a story, like a moral that you believe in again, which is really cool. And I don't know if Sebastian has anything
And also,
like,
something.
And I'd like to add some to that question. How I started is that I've come to a realization, to the reality when I first opened my Twitter account, when it's actually long gone. And fun fact, I deactivated my Twitter account before the Twitter hack. I realized the reality of the world that has come to, and I've distrust every world leaders and politicians around the world, including the top 1% of the top 1%, which came from the saying of one of the episodes of Mr. Robot. But yet, in all seriousness, it does exist. I had enough of lies, and I want the truth out there by doing what is right.
For me, there are a lot of personal things, like things that injustices that I witnessed when I was younger that became very personal to me. Some of the one thing probably that led me to where I am now. But probably all those things that I thought, okay, like, how can I help this? And for what I'm doing now, this seems like it's the most efficient way of dealing with injustice in the world and protecting what I care about as well.
yeah, and I think like, of course, getting what you care about is a big part of it, but also the learning part is, of course, a big part of what you want. And I think, of course, every learning experience, like you guys say, is golden and you have to take it. So that's very interesting to see what you guys' background is. I really like that. Thanks a lot for sharing. It takes a lot of courage to share things like that. I really appreciate that. The next question is, are you guys up to speed on the laws that apply to you?
Yeah, all the time we try to be updated about, whatever law affects us, I'm not sure what the question he's saying exactly, if like we know that what we do is legal. If that's the case, yeah, we know. That's why we take our OPSEC seriously. If he's talking about any new things happening to the law that affects us, I don't think they're going to change the CFAA after all these fucking years. If they do, they better change it for the better. I don't want to... It's just the CFAA is stupid. It should be abolished, or it should be completely changed from the case that it is.
Yeah, it's more like, I think it's more like a case of, if you're hacking a target, do you know what your sentence could be, your punishment?
yeah, we do know the consequences when we do what we do, and that's why we take our OPSEC seriously and all. It's important to us that I'm not going to say avoid these consequences, but we see what we do is right, and we feel that there is no reason for anyone to be punished in this situation, right? And we're not above the law, we're just freaking smarter than the law, I could say. I don't know.
Yeah, and
It's just the law's broken.
We don't need them. They're so vague, broken beyond repair. It never changes all these years. And Mickey Mouse says, "Wow, why the fucking CFFA is an ass, huh?" No fucking shit. Leave the comment down below, users.
Abolish the CFAA.
Wow, I comment out by saying hashtag abolish the CFFA and hack the fucking planet or hack the fucking galaxy, huh?
yeah, it's like those kind of things that they're made by 70-year-old white males who have never used the internet in their lives.
They've never touched a phone in their lives. They don't know how things work.
Hashtag Gh0stSec in the comments and the laws will change.
I hope so. I hope so. So for the last question that was there is end of year and everyone is flexing how much money Bug Bounty gave him, but they don't mention how long they've been doing it to get there. In your experience, how long and the median time does it take to get to a certain constant level? Well, it depends heavily on person to person, I think. And
Yeah, I agree with that. There's nothing called how long it takes in experience to get skillful. And the term skillful, at least in hacking, I don't believe, or in general, you can be skillful in something, but hacking is a huge fucking broad term. So being skillful in hacking as a whole is something that, I'm not going to say impossible, but it takes a lot to achieve that level, So how long it takes experience. So in experience, it depends on each person, how fast you can learn, what you're focused on, what you're trying to learn, how you're diving into it. All these things matter. How well you are researching things, It really depends on how you can learn these things, get this knowledge, and apply it into real-life experiences or practice experiences, whatever it is. Yeah, overall, it depends on that, right? Depends on actual experience, your creativity, and then that results in the skill that you're looking for.
definitely, I like that answer because for me it all comes down to the fact that we haven't all been dealt the same hand of playing cards. Like you said as well, we are all different. We've all been given different opportunities, and we all stand in a different point of our lives where some of us have more free time to others as well. And also, like, how quickly can you pick up complex topics? That's also a thing that's important. But I think what really expedites the process is building applications that are intentionally vulnerable. Because then you have to really understand the issue if you want to make it intentionally vulnerable. Do you guys have any last tips on that before we go?
One tip I can provide for them. Do your research about the reputation of these companies. I read a news article of a Russian security researcher for finding 0 days on Apple products, including the Mac OS X and iOS operating systems. Apple didn't respond with full acknowledgement to its security researchers to get the fully operating system patched and up to date, due massive critical vulnerabilities, like multiple of them. He had to release the vulnerabilities at GitHub since it is long overdue, which really frustrated him, and I couldn't blame him because of the big tech, especially when it comes to the car companies, for having a grudge or something. Do your research of how other security researchers of the process when reporting the vulnerability with full acknowledgement without any issues. So be careful, users. You never know.
Yeah.
Also, programming experience will help you a lot in Bug Bounty.
That is definitely true, because like for me, I just posted about this on Twitter as well. Bug bounties and pen testing are a completely different kind of animal. I think bug bounties is much more creative and much more free roaming, and even then bug bounties still have a lot more scope usually than a pen tester. A pen tester is often bound by feature level or something like that, and at least if they're working on a regular basis, because there's no company in the world which does a pen test every month, at least none that I know of. There might be some, but they're gonna be very limited in their numbers, I think. Like most companies do a full pen test every few weeks, maybe every few months. Every few months is what I mean. Maybe every few years even. There's definitely room for improvement there. And I think that we all still have a lot to learn, especially with all of these new technologies coming out, like NoSQL. We've already talked about that. AngularJS, Vue.js, all of this front-end technology is bringing onwards CSTI. It's amazing how much is still being found every day and how much we can still go deeper. Anyway, I would like to
Just to
thank
keep
you.
up, users, because technology is still marathons. Hacking. There's no such thing as rush. You gotta take your time and practice perfect. Really, you gotta step up.
Yeah, and
Marathon, no joke. You gotta keep learning. Same goes to us, because there are things we don't know, but we keep learning.
yeah, and don't give in to that fear of missing out, because it's all gonna be there in a month. Every single technology, every single piece of information that you still want is gonna be there in a month's time. Don't worry about it. Anyway, thank you very, very much for joining me today, amazing hackers. It was such a pleasure having you, and I hope we can do this again soon.
Anytime.
Shall I do the honors for the outro, user?
Of course.
You
Go
better
ahead.
say hack the planet.
We are Gh0stSec. We run this shit because we can. Most importantly, hack the planet! You amazing hackers.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Bye bye, everybody.